So, why does morality evolve and how does it progress? To explain this, Pinker introduces anthropologist Alan Fiske's theory in his book. Fiske categorized morality into four models that emerge sequentially, gradually moving humanity away from violence. These four models are communal sharing, authority ranking, equality matching, and market pricing. Let's break them down one by one. The first moral model is communal sharing, originating in primitive times, from families to ethnic groups or religious sects. Members cooperate internally but often show hostility externally. Horrific violence, like tribal massacres and ethnic cleansing, stem from intergroup conflicts. The second moral model is authority ranking. The Confucian concept of hierarchical relationships exemplifies this model. Hierarchies based on status, age, wealth create obligations. Superiors protect subordinates, reducing internal violence, but disobedience invites top-down punishment. These first two models mainly operated within closed communities, but increased social mobility brought diverse groups together, making insular community rules obsolete. Simultaneously, land-based agricultural economies gave way to transaction-based commercial systems. As economic foundations shifted, equality matching became the new moral framework. This model forms the basis of fairness and economic reasoning. It encourages empathy and mutual appreciation between parties, but it doesn't eliminate violence entirely. Broken reciprocity risks retaliatory cycles. The final model, market pricing, might seem unconventional. We can understand this as moral norms emerging from market economies. For instance, professionals in corporations or universities must adhere to fiduciary duties rather than arbitrarily hiring friends or family or engaging in favoritism. Modern industry regulations and professional ethics largely fall under market pricing, a purely rational moral framework. Compared to previous models, this one is fundamentally nonviolent. However, its limitation lies in lacking universal applicability. Economic logic isn't innate human understanding, nor can people maintain constant rationality. This model requires advanced cognitive capabilities that many haven't fully developed. Humanity's moral evolution from communal sharing through authority ranking toward equality, matching, and market pricing reflects our progression toward nonviolence. The final better angel is reason, Pinker's most cherished concept. Pinker argues reason enables transcending limited perspectives to seek improvement pathways. How does reason reduce violence? First, many atrocities stem from irrational beliefs like human sacrifice demands or anti-Jewish conspiracy theories. Rational examination exposes such beliefs' absurdity, undermining violent ideologies. Second, reason reveals violence's cyclical destructiveness. This prompts fundamental reevaluation of violence. Previously viewed as competitive mindset, matching or exceeding others' brutality. Reason reframes violence as problem requiring justification. Why choose violence? This conceptual abstraction inherently resists violent impulses. Moreover, reason drives moral progression through developmental stages. Basic mathematical understanding enables equality matching concepts. Visionary tone projecting developmental trajectory allows full implementation of nonviolent market pricing systems. Moreover, reason is a crucial ally of self-governance. Rational foresight enables understanding long-term consequences of impulsive actions, fostering self-control. Pinker firmly believes reason represents humanity's greatest hope for further violence reduction. Optimistically, this hope grows as humanity becomes increasingly rational and intelligent. Since last century, scientific reasoning permeated daily thinking alongside acceptance of human rights, democracy, and tolerance. These concepts stand opposed to war, genocide, racism, and totalitarianism. Pinker concludes, the smarter the world becomes, the less violent it will be. Now let's recap key points. Human nature contains both violent impulses and innate capacities for peace, according to Pinker. These innate capacities include empathy, self-control, morality, and reason. Among these, Reason offers greatest potential for violence reduction. Understanding humanity's dual nature, both dark and light, we must examine external forces influencing this balance. What historical forces help humanity transcend violence? This brings us to our third key question. Tinker identifies four major historical forces shaping this trajectory. These are Leviathan, humanitarian revolution, commerce, and feminization. Let's examine them sequentially, starting with Leviathan's role. There were some originally referring to a mythical sea monster in biblical texts. 17th century philosopher Thomas Hobbes reimagined it as symbolic of sovereign states in his seminal work. The Leviathan state monopolizes legitimate violence through legal systems. As discussed in On the Qin Empire from Chinese textbooks, after unification, the first emperor confiscated weapons, melting them into bronze statues in Xianyang to weaken potential rebellions. This illustrates how rulers neutralize grassroots violent capabilities upon consolidating power. Simultaneously, state institutions, courts, police, prisons effectively curb civil violence. Moreover, when Leviathan consolidates power, individual violence becomes insignificant against authoritarian structures, fundamentally altering societal rules. In feudal Europe's decentralized power structure, becoming a knight or local tyrant was the best path to wealth through plunder. But as small fiefdoms centralized into nation-states, currying royal favor replaced local banditry as the path to success. This transition from warriors to courtiers significantly reduced societal violence levels. Now let's examine the humanitarian revolution. Beginning around 17th century, this revolution dramatically reduced institutionalized cruelty. Legal torture and capital punishment decreased markedly from this period onward. Practices like witch hunts and human sacrifices virtually disappeared post-18th century. Modern people struggle to comprehend our ancestors' acceptance of public torture. Roman Colosseum crowds cheered as prisoners slaughtered each other and lions tore slaves apart. Public rape of women tied to pillars was common spectacle. For over a millennium, gruesome public executions drew enthusiastic crowds without remorse. Horrific devices like breaking wheels and water torture were meticulously designed. Unthinkable today. The humanitarian revolution taught societies to value human life. It promoted rational thought, advocating minimization of institutional violence. Enhanced empathy towards fellow humans became widespread. Consequently, slavery, torture, and excessive capital punishment were progressively abolished. Having discussed humanitarianism, let's analyze commerce's role. Commercial development first curbed war's prevalence in recent centuries. Since late 20th century, superpowers ceased direct warfare, while developing nations' conflicts caused minimal casualties compared to historical norms. Post-Cold War, global armed conflicts, including civil wars, ethnic cleansings, and terrorist attacks have continued declining. Why has warfare been restrained? Multiple factors contribute. Democratic governance, resolving disputes through rule of law, which democratic nations extend to international relations. Technological advancement also plays a crucial role. Modern military technology's destructive capacity makes nations reconsider conventional warfare. International organizations' peacekeeping efforts deserve credit too. But Pinker emphasizes commerce's paramount role in violence reduction. In resource-based economies, seizing others' assets seems a logical path to prosperity. Commerce transforms this through mutual benefit principles. Why pursue destruction when win-win solutions exist? Commerce undermines predatory violence and ideological extremism while strengthening moral frameworks. It reinforces equality, matching, and market pricing models. Modern trading nations prioritize mutual benefit over conflict. Recent decades witnessed unprecedented trade growth correlating with global stability. Finally, the feminization revolution, benefit-oriented. This revolution continuously lowers violence tolerance thresholds. Modern societies increasingly reject war and minor violent acts. Even subtle violent tendencies face social condemnation. Take 16th century Paris as popular entertainment. Burning cats lowered into bonfires on stage while crowds roared with laughter. Audiences shrieked with delight, watching the poor creature struggle and burn to death. Modern society would erupt in fury over such animal abuse. Unthinkable today, right? How did this rights revolution occur? Tinker sees it as an extension of the 17th century humanitarian revolution's legacy. Deepening humanitarianism enhanced empathy, morality, and rationality over centuries. Expanding human rights consciousness improved protections for women, minorities, children, and LGBTQ+ communities. This rights expansion now includes animals. Declining hunting, veganism rise, and anti-cruelty laws. Rights beneficiary systems analysis. Further accelerate violence reduction through feedback loops. Feminism exemplifies this dynamic most powerfully. Recall our earlier discussion. Males generally exhibit more violent tendencies than females. Recent decades' unprecedented female empowerment correlates with global violence decline. Finger asserts more feminine world equals more peaceful world. Let's summarize this section. Humanity's violence reduction follows observable historical trajectory, per Pinker. Leviathan's emergence drastically reduced social violence. Humanitarianism abolished torture. Commerce curbed wars. Rights revolution lowered violence tolerance. We've now covered core concepts from the better angels of our nature. Understanding humanity's violent psychology and restraining better angels. We've seen how Leviathan, humanitarianism, commerce, and rights revolution empowered our better angels, creating increasingly benevolent societies. Facebook founder Jack Berg's commentary on this book proves particularly insightful. He notes, recent events might suggest escalating violence and terrorism, but statistically, we're actually seeing reductions. Understanding this historical violence decline becomes crucial for maintaining progress. By learning how humanity achieved this, we can chart continued paths toward peace. Thus concludes The Better Angels of Our Nature, Why Violence Has Declined. That's today's analysis. Find keynotes below the audio. See you tomorrow.